Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're diving into those tricky driving test questions.
The ones that make you go, wait, what?
Exactly. We've got a whole stack of sources all about right-of-way, BAC limits, school bus rules, those things that seem simple but could be real head-scratchers.
What's fascinating about these sources is that they actually go beyond just memorizing the rules.
Okay.
They really get into the why, you know?
Right.
It's not just about passing the test. It's about
Oh, I see.
understanding the logic behind it.
So you're a better driver.
Exactly. It helps you make smarter decisions out there on the road, even after you've aced that test.
Because at the end of the day, none of us want to just be test passers.
Right.
We want to be good, safe drivers.
Mm-hmm.
So let's kick things off with a concept that seems basic, but a lot of people get tripped up on right away.
Right away, it's all about who goes first in different scenarios.
Okay.
And our sources, they break it down for all sorts of situations, like four-way stops, T intersections, those crazy roundabouts. And the key takeaway here, first come, first served. That's the golden rule.
So the early bird gets the worm, or the right-of-way in this case.
Yeah, got it.
But what happens when two cars arrive at a four-way stop at the same time? Who gets to go first then?
That's when the car on the right rule comes in.
Okay.
If it's a tie, the car on the right has the right of way.
Makes sense.
But our sources, they also stress something really important. When in doubt, yield. It's always better to err on the side of caution.
Right.
Let the other driver go than to, risk a collision.
Yeah, better safe than sorry. Right.
Exactly.
Speaking of being safe, the sources also talk about a big misconception that can actually be really dangerous.
Oh, yeah.
Assuming you always have the right of way. Why is that so risky?
Because it can lead to that me first mentality on the road, and that can lead to some serious accidents.
I see.
Defensive driving.
Yeah.
It means thinking ahead, anticipating what other drivers might do, and being ready to react even if they don't follow the rules.
You're not just reacting to what's happening. You're trying to...
Being proactive.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Now, let's talk about something that's not just important for the test, but also for real-life safety out there on the road, and that's BAC limits.
Yes. BAC, blood alcohol concentration.
Yeah. What exactly is that?
It's basically a way to measure how much alcohol is in your bloodstream.
Okay.
And the legal limit, well, it actually depends on where you are. In most of the U.S., it's 0.08% for drivers over 21.
Okay.
But here's the thing, impairment, it can start at much lower levels.
Really?
Yeah, even as low as 0.02%.
So you can be legally allowed to drive, but still be impaired?
That's right.
That's kind of scary.
It is, and that's why the sources really emphasize knowing your personal limits, right? Even one drink, it can affect your judgment, your reaction time. So it's always safest just to avoid driving altogether if you've been drinking.
Good advice. Now, let's move on to another topic that a lot of people get confused about. Those school bus rules.
Yeah, those flashing lights.
Oh, yeah.
Stop sign.
Can be a little intimidating.
Definitely.
So what's the deal with those?
Well, those flashing lights, those stop signs, they're there for a reason. It's to protect kids, right?
Right.
The basic rule is when you see a school bus with those red lights flashing and the stop sign is out, all traffic has to stop.
All traffic.
Yeah, no matter which direction you're coming from.
No exceptions. What if I'm on a divided highway with a median separating the lanes?
Okay, so that's one of the nuances the sources clarify.
Okay.
On a divided highway, it's only the vehicles going in the same direction as the bus that need to stop.
You got it.
If you're on the other side of that median, you can keep going, but proceed with caution.
Okay.
Always a good idea.
Yeah.
Just to be extra safe.
Okay, makes sense.
Safety first.
But what about those yellow flashing lights you sometimes see on school buses?
The yellow lights.
Yeah, what do those mean?
Those are basically a warning, letting you know that bus is getting ready to stop.
Okay.
Think of it like a heads up.
Yeah.
Slow down, be prepared to come to a complete stop when those red lights start flashing.
So yellow means caution, red means stop. Got it.
Yep.
Now, let's switch gears and talk about cell phones, hill parking, and those no turn on red signs.
Oh yeah, those can be tricky.
All tricky situations. So let's break them down one by one.
Okay, sounds good. Let's start with cell phones. The general rule, no texting while driving.
Okay, that seems pretty straightforward.
But it gets a little more complicated.
How so?
For minors, anyone under 18, most states have even stricter rules.
Really?
Yeah, no cell phone use at all while driving.
So no phone calls, even hands-free.
Nope, not for those under 18.
Okay, so young drivers need to be extra cautious.
Exactly. Now, for those over 18, the laws can vary. Most states will allow you to use a hands-free device.
Okay.
But holding your phone, that's still illegal in lots of places.
Got it.
But here's the key takeaway. Even those hands-free devices, they can still be distracting.
Oh, interesting.
Right. Our sources really emphasize this. Driving, it demands our full attention. Anything that takes your eyes off the road, your hands off the wheel, or even your mind off driving, it's a potential hazard.
So even if it's legal, it might not be the safest choice.
You got it.
All right, good to know. Now, let's talk about hill parking. It can be a little nerve-wracking, especially for new drivers.
I know, so many people get tripped up on this.
So how do I make sure I'm parking on a hill safely?
Okay, so the sources break it down into a really simple concept. You're basically using your wheels to prevent your car from rolling.
Okay.
When you're parking downhill, turn your wheels towards the curb so that if your car starts to roll, it'll hit the curb and stop. Uphill, you turn your wheels away from the curb, using it as a barrier.
So it's like using the curb as my backup plan. What if there's no curb?
Okay, good question. In that case, turn your wheels towards the side of the road. It doesn't matter which way you're facing, just aim for the side of the road.
Makes sense.
It's better to roll off the road than into traffic, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Okay, so hill parking is about more than just memorizing the rules. It's about understanding how your car interacts with the road.
Exactly.
Now, last but not least, those no turn on red signs.
Oh, this can be confusing.
They can. So what's the deal with those?
Okay, so in many places, you're allowed to turn right on red after you come to a complete stop.
Yeah.
But these no turn on red signs, they're there to basically override that general rule. They're telling you, hey, at this specific intersection, turning right on red is a no-no.
Okay.
And it's often for safety reasons, you know,
Totally.
like limited visibility, or maybe there's a lot of pedestrian traffic.
So those signs are basically saying, don't even think about turning right on red here.
Exactly. Be extra cautious. Be aware of your surroundings.
All right. Merging and lane changes.
Those can be tricky.
They can, especially for new drivers.
Yeah.
So what are the key things to know about merging and changing lanes safely?
Let's start with those yellow merge signs.
Okay.
Because they make a lot of people panic and merge way too early.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. A merge sign, it doesn't mean like merge right now.
Oh.
It's more of a heads up. Like, hey, 2 lanes are about to become 1. Be prepared.
Okay, so use that warning to adjust your speed.
Exactly.
Check your mirrors, find a safe gap.
Yeah, merge smoothly when it's safe. Don't try to force your way in.
So merging isn't about being aggressive, it's about being aware and graceful.
Exactly.
Now, what about those lane end signs? Are those basically the same thing?
They're similar, but think of them as a more agent message.
Right.
It's like, hey, your lane is going away. Get ready to merge now.
So don't wait until the last second to merge.
Definitely not. Signal early, check your mirrors and your blind spots, and merge smoothly when there's a safe gap.
Okay, and remember, those drivers already in that lane have the right of way.
Absolutely. They have the right of way.
All right, so we've got merging down. Now, what about speed limits, safe following distances, and those flashing yellow lights?
Ah, those are good ones. And, you know, they seem straightforward, but they can trip people up.
Okay, so let's start with speed limits. What could be tricky about those? They seem pretty clear-cut.
You'd be surprised. A lot of people get confused between speed limit signs and minimum speed signs.
Wait, there are minimum speed signs?
Yes, they exist.
I thought all speed signs meant maximum speed.
That's a common mistake. Speed limit signs, the ones we see most often, they tell us the fastest you can legally go on that road. In the US, they're usually black numbers on a white rectangle. But in the UK and some other places, it's a black number inside a red circle.
Interesting. I didn't realize there were different designs.
And then there are those minimum speed signs. They tell you the slowest you're allowed to drive.
Okay, so it's all about paying attention to the design and the color of the sign. Where would I typically see a minimum speed sign?
You usually find them on highways, maybe in tunnels, places where driving too slow could disrupt the flow of traffic.
Makes sense.
They're not as common as the maximum speed signs, but it's good to be aware of them.
All right, now let's talk about safe following distances. I feel like this is something I'm constantly adjusting based on the traffic, weather, all that.
Yeah, maintaining a safe following distance, it's so important. It's really key for avoiding those rear-end collisions.
Right.
And it does require constant awareness, you know, adjusting to your speed, the road conditions. Our sources actually recommend using the 3-second rule as a good starting point.
I've heard of that, but remind me how it works.
Okay, so pick a stationary object up ahead, like a sign or a tree.
Okay.
When the car in front of you passes that object, you start counting. 1001, 1002, 1003. You should reach that same object at least 3 seconds later.
So it's not just about eyeballing it, there's actually a technique to it.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, and that 3 seconds, that's just a minimum guideline.
Right. It's for good weather conditions.
Okay.
If it's raining, snowing, or foggy, you'll need to increase that following distance.
So more distance equals...
Reaction time.
Yep, yeah.
Exactly.
Especially when visibility is reduced.
Makes sense.
Now, let's talk about those flashing yellow lights. Are they basically the same as a yield sign?
Not quite. They both mean caution, but a flashing yellow light means you can proceed with caution. You don't have to come to a full stop, unless, of course, it's unsafe to continue.
Okay.
They're often used at intersections with moderate traffic, maybe near schools where visibility might be limited.
So it's more like a heads up to be extra vigilant, assess the situation, and then proceed.
Exactly.
Okay, so flashing yellow means caution, maybe slow down, but flashing red, that means full stop, then proceed when safe. Okay, now before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, let's touch on a couple more concepts.
Okay.
The kick-down feature in automatic cars and what a cover note means in the insurance world.
Those are good ones. They often pop up on driving tests and can throw people off if they haven't heard of them before.
Okay, let's break them down then. So what exactly is kick-down?
Kick-down, you find it in a lot of automatic cars.
Okay.
It lets you quickly downshift to a lower gear to get that burst of acceleration, for overtaking or maybe climbing a steep hill.
So it's like a hidden turbo boost.
Yeah, you could think of it like that.
Okay, that's helpful. And what about this cover note thing? What does that mean in terms of insurance?
Okay, so a cover note, it's basically temporary proof of insurance. It's valid for a short time, usually about 30 days.
Yep.
While you're waiting for your official insurance documents to come through.
So it's like a bridge between getting insured and actually having the policy in hand.
Exactly.
Okay. Now, are you ready for a little virtual trip across the pond?
Let's do it.
Let's explore some UK-specific driving scenarios and those unique legal requirements.
Okay, I'm ready. Let's go.
Perfect. So we've got puffin crossings, turning right onto a dual carriageway. And by the way, what exactly is a dual carriageway?
Ah, yes. Good question. A dual carriageway, it's essentially a divided highway with 2 lanes of traffic going in each direction.
Okay, so it's like a highway here in the U.S.
Similar in concept, but there are some key differences. Dual carriageways, they don't have the same level of access control as motorways, which are like the top tier of roads in the UK.
Okay, interesting.
You might come across junctions, traffic lights, even roundabouts on a dual carriageway.
So it's a bit of a hybrid between a regular road and a highway.
Exactly.
Got it. So we've got those, and we'll decode the SORN, the statutory off-road notification.
Okay, sounds good.
But first, those puffin crossings, what are they all about?
Puffin crossings are these pedestrian crossings that are controlled by sensors. They can tell when someone's waiting to cross.
Okay, and how are they different from regular pedestrian crossings?
The key difference is that puffin crossings, they don't have that flashing amber light phase.
Really?
The lights go straight from red to green when the crossing's clear.
Wow, so I need to be extra alert at those puffin crossings.
Exactly. Be ready to stop even if it looks like the light's about to change.
Got it. Now, what about turning right onto a dual carriageway? What makes that tricky?
Okay, so turning right onto a dual carriageway, it involves crossing multiple lanes of traffic. It can be intimidating, especially when those cars are moving fast.
Yeah.
But the key is to use that central reservation.
The median strip.
Yeah, the median strip.
Okay.
That's your friend.
So how do I use the central reservation safely?
First, you got to check if it's wide enough for your car to fit comfortably.
Okay.
If it is, great. You can stop halfway. Give yourself a little safe haven while you wait for a gap in the oncoming traffic.
And what if the reservation is too narrow for my car?
Then you've got to wait until both directions are clear before you make your turn. It takes a little patience, but it's definitely the safest approach.
Okay, so it's about being strategic and patient.
Exactly.
Now, let's talk about the SORN, the statutory off-road notification. What is that exactly, and when would I need to use it?
Okay, so a SORN, it's basically a declaration. You're letting the DVLA,
DVLA.
the Driver and Vehicle Licensing Agency,
Okay.
You're letting them know that you're taking your vehicle off the road.
Okay, so when would I need to do that?
Maybe you're doing some repairs, storing the car,
Okay,
or you just don't plan on driving it for a while.
got it.
It's like a way to officially say, hey, this car's not going anywhere.
What are the benefits of declaring a SORN?
Well, the main benefit is you don't have to pay road tax or insurance
Hmm.
while your car's off the road. Saves you some money.
Makes sense.
If your car's just sitting there in the garage, gathering dust,
Right.
no need to pay for those things.
Okay, that's a helpful tip. Any misconceptions about the SORN that people should be aware of?
Yeah, a lot of people think that a SORN expires after a year, but that's not true. It actually lasts indefinitely until you decide to, tax and insure your car again and get it back on the road.
Okay, so it's a permanent thing until you actively change it.
Exactly.
Got it.
Yeah.
Before we move on, let's talk about calculating stopping distances. Why do so many people struggle with these calculations?
Because stopping distance, it's not just about slamming on the brakes.
Right.
It actually has two parts, thinking distance and braking distance.
Okay, so what's the difference?
Thinking distance is the distance your car travels while you're reacting to a hazard. It's that time between when you see the danger and when you actually hit the brakes.
So it's about how quickly your brain processes the information.
Right, and how fast your reflexes are.
Yeah.
It's affected by things like your reaction time, visibility, if you're tired, even if you're distracted.
Okay, so it's that mental processing time. What about braking distance?
Okay, so braking distance, that's the distance your car travels from when you hit the brakes until it comes to a complete stop.
So it's a combination of how quickly you react and how effectively your car can brake.
Exactly. And remember, both of those distances increase as you go faster.
Okay, so higher speed equals longer stopping distance. What about weather conditions? Do those play a role too?
Definitely. Rain, snow, ice, those can make your braking distance much longer. So it's even more important to leave extra space between you and the car in front.
Okay, so rain, snow, or ice equals longer stopping distances, especially at higher speeds. Got it. Any tricks for memorizing those key stopping distances for different speeds?
Our sources suggest a good rule of thumb. For every 10 mph increase in speed, you basically double your stopping distance.
Okay, so double the speed, double the stopping distance. Makes sense. Now, I know we've been talking about a lot of common signs and rules, but what about those less common road signs? The ones you don't see every day?
Yeah, those can be tricky, but you might still see them on the test, so it's good to be familiar with them.
So why are they important if they're not as common?
Because they give you important information about specific situations or hazards that you might encounter on the road. Even if it's not an everyday thing, knowing what those signs mean can help you anticipate potential dangers.
Knowledge is power, even when it comes to obscure road signs.
Absolutely.
So what are some examples of these uncommon signs and what do they mean?
Okay, so one example is the cycle route ahead sign.
Okay.
It usually has a bicycle symbol on it.
Huh.
It's basically warning you that, hey, there might be cyclists on the road ahead.
Okay, so be on the lookout for bikes.
Right. And then there's the uneven road sign. It's got those wavy lines on it, kind of like a bumpy road. It means you're going to be driving on a rough surface. Be prepared to slow down.
Okay, so cycle route ahead means watch out for cyclists, and uneven road means brace for bumps. What else is there?
You might also see a hump bridge sign. It's for those bridges with a steep arch in the middle. You got to approach those with caution.
Interesting. I've never seen a hump bridge before.
They're not super common, but you might see them in more rural areas. Oh, and then there's the farm traffic sign. That one's letting you know to be on the lookout for those slow-moving tractors and farm vehicles.
Right. So it's all about being aware of potential hazards, even if they're not everyday occurrences.
Exactly.
I'm realizing that driving is more than just knowing the basic rules. It's about anticipating the unexpected.
Absolutely. It's about being prepared for anything.
Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground in this first part of our deep dive.
Yeah, we have.
We've tackled right-of-way, BAC limits, school bus safety, those tricky turns, merging, speed limits, and even those uncommon road signs.
It's been a good start.
It has.
Eh.
Well, I feel like we've covered a ton of ground in this deep dive. I've learned so much. How about you?
It's been a great journey. We've explored so many different aspects of driving. It's amazing how much there is to learn, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
I feel like I've gained a whole new appreciation for the rules of the road, for those safe driving practices, and for all those things that go into being a responsible driver.
Absolutely. And remember, learning about driving, it's a lifelong process. The key is to stay informed, stay alert, and always prioritize safety.
Well said. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive into the world of driving. Until next time, everyone, drive safely, stay curious, and keep learning.